Would you like to know? Mm-hmm. They teach you how to arrest people. Like this. Like this. Yeah. We bring them to jail. Special agent, I can tell you about that because that's what I was, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was, 26 years. I was an FBI agent. Oh, that's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that. You have to be a college graduate to become an agent. I applied for the FBI, and I was accepted. And the training course was 16 weeks at Quantico, Virginia. That's up by Washington. They teach you all about the law, firearms. You had to learn firearms, how to arrest people, and a lot of other things. Before you can go to Quantico to be an FBI agent, they do a very thorough, a very complete background investigation. They check all your schools. You have to be good in school. If you worked after school, they check that out. You have to be very good. And one thing they really check, they look for in people applying for the FBI is leadership. If you've shown leadership, like in the Girl Scouts or in school, that's taken into consideration. That's very much in your favor. Was getting some people to cooperate in the investigation, to tell the truth. And a lot of times we had to convince people to cooperate when it was not in their interest to do it. You know, they'd have to confess and they'd have to face the consequences for what they did. I guess the biggest case, the case that got the most publicity that I worked on was when the president of Exxon Corporation, that's Exxon gasoline oil company, when he was kidnapped. He was kidnapped right outside of his home. One morning, the kidnappers just grabbed him and threw him in a van, and then they started sending messages to his family and to his company, demanding money for his safe return. They identified the kidnapper coming out of a phone booth and followed him and eventually got him he and his wife to admit to the kidnapping. And we arrested her and brought her in for trial. That was my biggest case that I worked on. Well, whenever you make an arrest, your life is in danger because you don't know how the other person will react. You know, I was an agent for 26 years and I never really fired my gun at anyone. I was lucky I didn't have to. There were some definitely scary moments when making arrests and so forth. One that I really recall was, it was in Paterson, New Jersey on a rainy Friday night. As I recall, it was a dangerous fugitive. He was armed and dangerous. And I remember going up some very narrow stairs, going up to the apartment. And I was about halfway up there. I saw a shadow behind the door. And I'm thinking, who is that? And it was scary because I didn't know what was going to happen. So I said a prayer. I remember saying a prayer at that time that it would be okay. And as it turned out, it was a fugitive's mother.
Oh, really?
He wasn't there. I'm glad you asked that question because that's one of the funniest things that ever happened to me when I was an agent. This was right after I became an agent. It was in Detroit. I still remember it because it was funny. It was one of the funniest things that ever happened to me. We were arresting someone. It was in an apartment building, and it was early morning, very early in the morning. There was three of us, three agents, and it was a fugitive we were arresting. And two of them went to his door at the apartment, and I had to go out and back in case he tried to get out the window and get through the yard. So what happened is I went to where I was supposed to be, and I heard this big noise, and then the agents came to the window and said, "Okay, we got him." So I went around back up the stairs to the apartment, and they had to break the door open. They knocked the handle off the door, the doorknob. So I went in and I closed the door behind me, but because there was no handle on the door, we couldn't get the door back open. So the three agents were in there with this guy, and we had to knock the door down to get back out of the apartment. It's a true story.
Wow.
It was a mix. There was a lot of paperwork involved in the job. So on some mornings I'd go in the office and do paperwork, but then I'd go out and do my cases, interview people, find people, do surveillances, things like that. And I'd say there was a mix. There was paperwork, but also a lot of time was in the field, and doing the actual work. I think the favorite part of the job was just getting up every morning and knowing that I'd be doing something that I really enjoyed, and doing good, helping people. Oh, this is my badge, my FBI badge.
That's the actual badge?
Yeah.
Can you hold it closer to the,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This is called a credential. It's an identification. Like, FBI, ma'am.
Oh, so you
Yeah. You show this when you talk to people.
wait, I don't know what to say.
What's the question?
Wait, what was the question? Wait, what was the question? What was the question? I wasn't really listening.
The hardest part of the job was cut.